Hey everybody, it's Ginger. I'm starting the broadcast now. It's about 7 minutes before we're scheduled to begin our dawning, and I thought I would, instead of putting our camera on and logging in and then letting it sit just quietly by itself, I thought I would let myself be in position. So I'm just turning my volume down on my iPad. My iPad is my way to chat, use the chat. And I could hear myself talking on one device as I'm recording on another. So I turn that off, and we will begin at around 8 o'clock. The live broadcast will start our dawning. I'm just going to give a little shout out here on my handy dandy iPad on the chat. So hi everyone. Thanks for joining. Where are you from? Let's start from that with that, and we can have everybody say hi. If you can hear me, that would be awesome if you could let us know. I see we've got some people waiting, so I'm just would be awesome to have someone say yes, it's working. Everything technology-wise is in our favor tonight. So if someone's hearing an echo, that could have been my two devices going. There shouldn't be any echo. There would be no reason on our end right now that we are, we'd have an echo. So if you're hearing an echo, you could play around with your device and see if there's something maybe on your end. That would be my suggestion, because beyond what I've got set up here, this is probably as good as my audio is going to get for right now for what we have. And I see lots of folks chiming in. Lots of folks. It is nice and warm and sunny here in Nova Scotia, Canada. And so it's a wonderful night. It's nighttime here. It is almost 8 o'clock, and it is a wonderful time to catch up with all of you and connect and dot. It's very quiet in my house tonight. Usually I have to tuck away all of the humans who live with me, because this is being broadcast in my workspace here in my home. And I usually have to hide the other humans so that they don't get involved and have their noisy selves. They're not that noisy, but it doesn't take much for the camera to pick up the sound. So tonight I'm here in my house and in my workspace too, all by my lonesome. My daughter is off to her first overnight camp. So I particularly had this in mind when I scheduled her camp. I scheduled this so that it would be coinciding, and my life partner is off enjoying some time with friends. So that just leaves me and Sophie. And Sophie is our golden retriever, and so far she has decided that she's camera shy and she's not anywhere around. So yeah, I think it's just going to be me, but sometimes Sophie does venture on down to the workspace. So we have just about 4 minutes until we start our dotting. And what I'll do is go over what we need, what you need, if you don't already have it, just in case. You're going to need something to dot on. And the size of that is going to depend on which set of our tools you're working with this evening. If you're working with our set of 7 dotting tools, you're going to need a surface that is at least 5 inches. This piece, when it was originally created that we're painting tonight, the original is 5 inches. And when I work with people to follow the pattern steps, they may end up with a version that's a little smaller or a little bigger. So I always budget at least an extra inch. So give yourselves a 6-inch wide dotting surface in all directions, square or circular. If you're working with our set of 8 dotting tools, then you will need something about half the size. So you need something about 3 inches. So I'm going to be creating on these discs tonight, and I'm going to do 2 copies at the same time. I did this last time. It really helps to keep me a pace that works, and it also demonstrates both sizes at the same time. So I will go at a pace that allows me to paint the two, and you'll see me demonstrate first on the larger side, and then I will demonstrate the smaller version. So if you're planning to try to do more than one piece, just see how that goes. You may find that you need to cut back to only one so that you have enough time to keep up. You can always pause the recording as well. So you need your tools and a surface. Our colors this evening, I will put the camera down when we're officially starting and you'll see the colors. But basically you will want a white, and you're going to need black in case there's anything to fix up. You're going to need 2 shades of green that are kind of in the foliage color range. So they're a little more subdued. They're not that bright. One's a little darker than the other. And I have called those in the instructions shamrock green and foliage green. So they kind of have this color of leaves. Then you're going to need 4 shades of blue. So on either end of those 4, you have one that is a dark blue, and we're going to call that navy. Then you're going to need a pale blue at the other end. So the extremes of your blues on each end. And then in between, we have 2 colors, one that we're calling denim blue. And that denim blue is almost a little bit gray. And then we have this more vibrant blue that's called Mediterranean blue. You don't need to worry about the colors being precise, but just make sure you've got yourself 2 shades of green, 4 shades of blue, a white and a black, and you'll be good. We'll make it happen, okay? So let's see what our time is. Oh, it's 8 o'clock, bang on. What have I missed that you need? You're going to need something to wipe your tools off with, paper towel, or as we've had someone join us in the past, maybe your sweatshirt will do that for you. That was pretty funny when she showed us on Facebook afterwards that she indeed had been wiping her tools with her sweatshirt. Have a hair dryer handy. I'm just looking at mine hiding over here. Now the hair dryer is just so that when we get in between our layers of colors, we're ready with the hair dryer to speed up the drying process. So here is our piece that we're going to create this evening. It is called the Piece Design, and just a little brief history about this. It has been created for, I think, over 2 years. I believe it would be 2 years this summer that it was first designed, and it's just stayed kind of in the files or the archives for a while. It was originally created with 4 or 5 others in that summer of 2017, where I was looking at developing pieces that would be really, really awesome for my school visits and any other work that Otauna reaches out with schools. And it happened to just kind of not be as prominent as some of the other ones that was getting a lot of action. Our friendship design was created during that time frame. And gratitude, I'm trying to think of the other ones that would have been created during that time. But all of them were created with the intention of them being beginner level and ones that we could have a theme related to something positive, of course. And so this one just didn't get as much interest or what for whatever reason back then. And so it just kind of sat, and I kept pondering over these last couple of years what it would be used for. This is very unusual. Usually the patterns are out and about and, you know, getting lots of use for different reasons. But this one's totally different in that regard. So a couple months ago when I started to go back to the global dotting time format, I said that this one is perfect because it has always been the piece design. Its colors are, when I researched piece, these were the colors that were the most dominantly associated with piece, these kind of subdued blues and more kind of greenery, nature type greens. So it is the original concept for this piece, and it lends itself really well for this format because it was designed with being able to be successful for anybody, including beginners. So beginners, if you're new to this and this is your first time joining us, I encourage as many places as I could promote on the website, on our Facebook event information, that we do not go over in this, at the beginning of the event, how to use the dotting tools. So if you are new to us and you don't know how to use them, there's a video specific to that on our YouTube channel that you can check out. You can just pause this and go see it, or you can just follow along tonight. And after you've seen that, then you can go along and dot this design. Everything else, though, that we do tonight is totally manageable with beginners. Okay, so we're going to get started as soon as I do one more thing, which is to read our intention with people as far as what Global Dotting Time is all about. So it is our intention to gather together to form a peaceful space where we experience our interconnection and oneness. We are transcending borders. And I already know from when I was looking at the chat, we've got people from places around the world to simultaneously create a symbol of our unity. The dots we paint together signify each person connecting here, each person strengthening and expanding this space. The finished mandala is a beautiful collection of us all and represents this powerful time together. So let me put the camera down and then you can take a look at the colors. I closed my iPad and now I don't see my chat and it makes me feel very disconnected from everybody. So I'm going to have to leave it open and just keep using my battery power. So here are the colors, and just give me a moment to adjust my camera to its brightness here. And get used, it always takes me a minute to get used to how the camera works. It's completely like upside, there we go, completely upside down. Now give me a second here with the darkening. It's very bright and sunny here in Nova Scotia, and so we've got sunlight coming in all of our windows, but this is pretty accurate from what I'm seeing on my screen. Your screen may read a little differently, so that's why I say the colors are always just approximate, because we're, you know, showing up on a device that may or may not be exact. Okay, so there, I'm back online. I can see everybody talking, and that makes me feel much better. Like I know, I can see everybody's chat. That's fantastic. So black, white, here's our 4 shades of blue. Like I said, on either end, this looks really, really dark, but don't mistake it. It's probably just my camera and or a device in its interpretation. This is navy. This is my black over here. This is a light blue. Now in between you have a couple shades of blue, and one I'm calling Mediterranean blue, and this one's denim blue. It's showing up a little more vibrant than it is in real life. Don't worry about it if it's not exact. Here are my 2 shades of green. Like I said, they're more like foresty type greens. We want one darker than the other. All right, so get yourself ready with your piece that you're going to paint on. I'm going to shuffle things around. And we're going to start. And as I mentioned, this was designed 2 years ago. I haven't painted it in 2 years. I have not gone back and revisited it. So we will be starting in the center and working our way out. I'm really excited to dive back in and do this with you and recreate it again, because this is the only copy that I believe has ever been made, unless you've made it with the design instructions on your own beforehand. So we'll be starting in the center, working our way out, painting it in layers of colors. And if you're new to that, it will all come clear as we do it. So the first color we need is 2. We want tool 2. So here's my tool, and I'm going to turn the camera so that the numbers are, I hope that's reading. For me, it's reading in reverse, but it's at least not upside down, which is what we want. All right, and I just had paper towel under mine because I have a black tablecloth, and I find I need that contrast of the white and the black to help you folks see what's happening here. And here's my little guy that I'm going to paint with my set of 8 tools. So tool 2, white paint. I have marked the center of my piece. It may not show up on the camera, but it is right above my finger here. And I'm going to take white paint and very carefully just let this dot cover up the center. And I may have got my marking. I estimated really super quick. My sister gave me a call right before we were supposed to start the broadcast, and I talked to her and talked to her and talked to her, and that kind of gave me less time to get my dot completely center here. So apologies if it's a little off. And now I'm going to we're going to blame it on my sister. I'm sure it's not the first thing in my life I've blamed on her. There. So small one, little, and big one. I'll always start with the big guy. Now we want tool 6. And my job all the way through this is to keep my tools organized. So tool 6. And the color we're going to use is Denim Blue. So out of our shades of blue, for me, it is the one, navy's the darkest. This is almost as dark as that. It's a little bit on the gray side as well. Okay, so we want Denim Blue, and we're going to make our first 8 dots. This is an 8-point mandala or mandala. And so if you're new to this, I'm going to talk you through how to do your first 8 dots. Let me get the camera in nice and close. There we go, brighten it up a little bit. So the first dot goes up at the top, and it's almost touching your big white guy. And then reload the denim paint and go right below it. So if your dots make contact with your white center one, that's no big deal. But as you get to practice, you'll get more consistent with your control over the placement. Just be patient with yourself if you're new, and allow yourself gentle time to learn the process and let little things go. And trust me, they're little. So what I did is I rotated my discs. So the first 2 dots I painted are off to the side, and then I repeated my placement. I put one at the top and one at the bottom. I end up with 4 dots that are about equal distance apart. So there's my first 4, and we're going to turn, repeat again, top and bottom. And you see we are dividing the distance between our dots that were already there in half, so there's equal spacing. And then we turn and do it again. So you'll see me repeat this process. On the smaller version, it will look similar. It will just be basically shrunk down, like mini-me. So I take the same tool in my other set of tools. It will work exactly the same way. Only thing is that you kind of have to be on the lookout for dots that turn out a little small. You might have to dip back in, get a little more denim paint, because we want our dots in each step best as we can to be the same size. There we go. So this is our setup, and it gives us 8 dots. They're all about equal distance apart. So if you're new to this, and if you happen to be near a friend, like if you invited a friend over, anytime you compare what you're creating to someone else's, you'll see differences. And what happens with new folks is they think theirs is wrong. If they see bigger spaces here than their neighbors or their friends, they think they've done something wrong. So don't worry about that. People make their dots sometimes a little bigger or smaller, and it will all work out okay. And as you get accustomed to the process and you see what you like and how it all works, you may adjust what you're doing, but it will still be okay. All right, what do we need to do next? We need tool 7. So going back to my big one, and we're going to work with the paler blue. So this is the lightest blue that you've got. And what we're doing is we're going to go back to our first 8 dots, and we're going to be using those as a guide. So you can see me kind of hovering here and showing these imaginary lines that we have extending out from the center. So picture these imaginary lines growing, growing, growing. And what we're going to do is dip into our light blue paint with our tool 7, and on that imaginary line, you're going to put a light blue dot. And then we dip back into that light blue, or pale blue as I call it in the instructions. And you do that again. Now, I sometimes will go up and down like that, work at the 12 and the 6 o'clock position. I find that can really help to keep things straight. And you'll notice I don't use any guidelines on this level of a piece. I find it much more helpful for me personally just to focus and work with this center dot, to let that guide everything. And my experience with teaching people is that that is, on average, the best way to do it for most people too. It takes a lot of trust in yourself and learning what to do. But ultimately, it will allow the piece to relate to the center, which is what a mandala is all about. So that's why I do not use guidelines on these level of pieces. So you can see what I'm doing here. Reapplying my paint, turning my piece, and putting in another set of 8 dots. And you'll see me repeat the process here on the small version. It will look exactly the same, just tinier. Or at least very similar. Might not be exactly the same. There we go. Okay, so we have a lovely foundation happening now. And we're going to need tool 5 next. Interesting when I look back on this because, as I said, I've designed this 2 years ago, which would mean it was the first 12 months or so of when I was creating the system. And I think if I was to create this now, I would place the step we're going to do right now ahead of the step that we just did. But we're going to see what happens. I don't know. I'm just thinking, what would I have done if I did it now? You learn so much as you teach people and try things and you know, develop the process. It's still going to work fine. I just am putting my teaching cap on and thinking, I wonder what would have happened if I reversed these steps. So let's do it in the way I had done it in 2017, which is we need out of our 2 greens, we need the darkest one. We need tool 5. So this color I've called Shamrock Green. It's the darkest green. All right. And what we're going to be doing, this is a dry tool. So I'm going to demonstrate here with the dry tool. This is the placement of this dot. So it's going to live in between these 2 dots that we've created. And it aligns with the center in this space right there. So here comes the first one. And the reason I know this may have been a little less tricky if we'd done this green first is we just have to be careful right now that we aren't touching these 2 dots that we've created on either side. So just be gentle. You may find, well, Ginger, I don't even need to worry about it. Mine aren't even coming close. Well, that's fine too. No worries. But for some people, I just know there'll be a range of what's happening. Just be gentle with your tool. And if it's absolutely necessary, you could switch and use the smaller tool just below it in size, which would be tool 6. But I would encourage you as best as you can use this size. Use tool 5, just so that it stays at this point as close to the size that we have all that going on here as we can. All right, so there's the big version. And now I need, that was tool 5. So in the small size tools, tool 5 is actually a stylus or a ball tip tool or embossing tool. And that allows our littler set of tool to have more capabilities. So this can create dots that are all the same size, which it will do right now, but it also can do outlines, tapers, walk the dots, whatever language you want to use for those that technique. Okay, so it's going in the same position. If you're new to this, as I was saying, the process is that these will be painted in layers of dots, and you're going to be thinking as we do layer 1, which is what we're building on right now. Oh my gosh, this is taking will probably take us about an hour maybe to do layer 1. but that is the most work. It's about 70% of our time to do layer 1. So the other layers of dots go on really quickly in comparison. Now we need tool 2. So we're going to cover a larger territory now because we've got tool 2. And I've just got to check my original. I always want to make sure I've got us going in the right direction here. Yes, because this is always when we've got basically 2 sets of dots we can focus on right now. And that's always a dangerous time when I could lose somebody if we don't take the moment just to really focus on what we're doing. And even then, we still could lose somebody. And don't worry about it if it's you. Do your best to problem solve. And if you are chatting, you can mention it. But we're going to do our best here to keep ourselves all on the straight and narrow. So what we want to focus on are these little blue dots right in here. Each of these are going to be our guides. And we're going to ignore those green. All right, because what we were going to be doing, this is a dry tool, we're going to be aligning a big dot with each of these. The danger is that we could miss our focus and align a dot with the shamrock green. That's what we do not want. Okay, so if you're not really clear on what I'm talking about, watch me put on the dots first on this big version, and then you'll hopefully see, oh yeah, I see where we're going here with this. So we want the Mediterranean blue. So let me make sure I get my brighter one. It's close to the shade I've poured here. Now that's looking almost white on my screen, but that is a light blue. So I'm taking this Mediterranean blue, this vibrant kind of shade that reminds us of the Mediterranean. It's like an ocean color. And I'm aligning it with the center in that little pale blue dot right there. And then I'm going to go right above it, like that. So you might want to work back and forth like I just did, or you might find it easier to always work at the top or the bottom, but keep rotating your piece and keep focusing on that little tiny dot. Let every dot you make with Mediterranean blue and tool 2 line up like that. Okay, so I'm going to keep trucking away here. You watch this step for as long as you need for it to resonate and make sense in your mind with what you're seeing. So when I teach this to a group of people, one of maybe 3 scenarios will happen. Because there's always in a piece, there's typically at least one step that's similar to this, where people need to really focus on their placement or they could put it in the wrong spot. One of a few things end up happening after I talk them through it, and away they go. Number 1, the whole group gets it right. I do a happy dance, yay. How did that miracle occur? 40 people times 8 dots, all in the right place. That's a pretty big miracle. So that hopefully will happen. Sometimes it does not. We might have a person put it in the wrong spot and they catch it. Oh, I'm like 2 dots in and I've done one wrong. If that happens to you right now or anytime, just pause the video and erase the dot. And to do that, dry it, put black paint over it, and away you go. That's usually the easiest. Sometimes with a piece, if all 8 have gone in the wrong spot, like if they all aligned with our other green dots instead of the blue, well, I always end up in that time when I am there with the person, I am able to kind of get them to keep going and keep their dots in the position they painted, and we just modify a step or 2 later on. There's usually 1 or 2 places in the design that it won't work, or it just needs a slight adjustment, and otherwise they're fine. So those are the scenarios of what can happen. 1, miracle occurs, everybody got it right. 2, we've got people who make a few mistakes and they fix them. Or 3, we've got someone who's put them all in the wrong spot and we adjust. It's all fixable. It's all problem solving, folks. It's all doable. All happy stuff. So I just wanted you to know everything can work. Okay, so here's our big guy and our little guy, and they're looking very, very peaceful. I love the colors. They're very tranquil, and they're not colors that I've combined together, I think, in any other piece. Having these particular blues and these particular greens makes it quite unique. So now we want to go look, because like I said, I'm really doing this along with you because it's the first time I've done it in 2 years. We want tool 7. And the color we're using is our lighter of the 2 greens. It's called Foliage Green. And it's good to see we got some people saying so far so good. Let me know if you want to put a shout out on the chat. Let me know how that step went. That's anytime we lay down these big dots, the bigger ones, it's like really putting up the walls of the house. It's foundational. You've got to get them up there. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully all is level. And then you decorate the walls. You put a lot of stuff around them. And that's what we're doing now. We're going to do the stuff that just kind of fits in between the major dots. So if you did all right, let me know how it went. Okay, so we've got tool 7. We want Foliage Green. That's the lighter of the 2 greens. Here's mine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to be aware of another set of lines building out from the center. And here's my tool just hovering across here. And what you're going to do is do one. All right, our connection got lost, so I'm just going to make sure we get everybody on. And I'm hearing people, that was me, sorry, when I look down, that's me just typing on the iPad. And I see people saying, we're back, yay. Now I have to tell you people where I live. Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly where I live. You'd all be pretty awesome though. I trust you, but you never know who's going to watch this. So I'll tell you kind of where I live. I live in a rural area of Nova Scotia. I'm not in Halifax. I'm not in a big city. And my internet, usually, touch some wood, is fantastic. So I'm assuming something happened. It just went off all of a sudden is what I saw there. And I could tell on my iPad that you folks had seen the same thing. So I'm saying, see some people saying back now and some people saying that they can't see me. So I would suggest if you can't see me or whatever, if you're hearing this, pop over to the YouTube channel and see what's going on there. I'm going to type that in. And then we'll keep going. I'm just going to try that myself too, to see if that worked. Just hang on a second while I pretend I am also watching as a participant. Yep. It's working for me now. Okay, good. Perfect. So I'm going to keep on trekking. That's what worked for me, is I was able to pop over to YouTube and just see it. So down we back go. I didn't do any dots without any of you here. We'll keep on trucking. Woohoo! There we are. Yay! Okay, so what we were doing, tool 7, the lighter green, and we're putting 2 dots. I'm going to wipe my tool off because in the middle of that got some paint drying on it and making not so nice dots. Yay, technology. Yay, YouTube. Yay, all of you for sticking with it and finding out how to get back on. We're awesome. Okay. And then the little version is going to happen here. I'll bring the big guy back in. So I'll get my little dots on here. There we go. Okay, tool 5. And we want Denim Blue. Denim Blue is the shade just below our navy. I'm going to turn that around so you can see the tool. So Denim Blue is going to extend the lines that we have here. And I'll start doing them right like this. So you'll see it go on just in there. It fits in quite nicely right there. And you, like I said, you might find that the spacing is a little bit different than yours. Don't worry about that. As we build out, the differences can become slightly more exaggerated with each kind of step outwards. There can be different variances of what's happening. Don't worry about it. This is just, it's kind of like a recipe. You know, you're seeing the example and it doesn't have to be exact. We're going to know that it's still the same piece that we're connecting together to create. So this is tool 5, Denim Blue. You can see it's just a little bit different, almost like a little bit grayer than the brighter Mediterranean blue that we made with the biggest dots. This is tool 5. Tool 5, folks. And over to our little one. Now on my little one, these dots are extending out a little bit further. And that's just a great way to show, you know what? Even with mine, there's slight differences. Here its dots are a little bit further out from the center than on the larger version. This probably has to do with how close or far apart I made that last step with the 2 little dots. Okay. Ooh, big tools coming into play now. No, I lie. Almost. I was skipping ahead a step. We don't need the big tool yet. We need tool 7. And we're going to work with the pale blue. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to use a little bit of paint on this tool. So what I do is to control the size of this dot, just let the side of the tool touch the paint. And you'll pick up just a hair of paint, just a little bit, and that will make your dots on the smaller size, which is a good idea for this. So you see how I'm just touching the pale blue paint. And what I'm going to do is line up a dot with the center. And then I'm just going to follow around here. You might get in 1 dot or 2 dots. I got in 3, which just has to do with how little paint I used. If you get less or more, no big deal. Just let out however many dots want to emerge. So I call this the special taper. And the special taper just means I line the first dot with the center. You can start going to the left or the right, doesn't matter. But then you re-dip in and dot over that center dot. It just gives it a little more emphasis, So you can see that it's aligned with the center, makes it a little larger than the other one. So that's what I refer to as the special taper. That's what it means to do in our instructions. So that's what you're going to do for all of these big guys. If you're new, you might think that I'm just speeding along. I've just done this quite a bit. So this process takes a large range of time. Some people will be fast at it. Some people will be slow at it comparatively. That doesn't mean anything bad or good. It just is how it is. You take the amount of time that you need to do it well and do it so it pleases you how it looks. And remember, I've got my second one to do over here. Well, I'll repeat the same process with on the small version. So I was sharing that my daughter is away for the first time. She has gone to an overnight camp. She left on a Sunday, and I will be picking her up on a Friday. So that means she's away for 5 nights. I think I got my math right. In 6 days. She came home from school in the spring with a brochure to an art place. Now, I have to say that I guess she sees this a lot, but this would be the extent of my artistic know-how. So she is very, very enthusiastic about art, about creating. So she came home with this brochure that was given out in her school, because schools just kind of help spread the word about whatever opportunities are available for young people, of course. And this being one of them is this awesome overnight art camp situation. She said, I must go. I have to go. So we talked about it and thought about it for quite a while. And anyhow, the bottom line is she did end up being able to go and has been there. And we're not able to be in contact with her. The camp really encourages parents and children to let the camp have its space, let them have their space. And so this is a new thing for us. And I'm really excited to hear how her week goes. I'm very excited for her. Her theme of the camp is a fashion camp. So I'm not sure what she's creating. I'm going to find out when I go get her on Friday. All right, now the big guy. I promised the big tool, and it is coming. Here it is. Tool 1. Whenever I speak to people about the tools, a common thing that comes up is this one is the most challenging. And it is. It's laying down a lot of paint. Don't worry about it if your dots are not completely circular. Over time, as you practice, you'll get more consistent. But yeah, this tool is pretty big. So we want the Denim Blue. Yes, I'm double checking. I should have double checked before the words came out of my mouth, but I was correct. Denim Blue. So it's this one here that we just painted with, this darker, grayer kind of blue. So this center point of what we just created, and more importantly, the center of our white dot right here in the middle is our alignment. And again, really zone in and make sure that what you're doing is aligning your dots. There's a danger you could be putting them here. We don't want that. This is the same kind of thing like we just did a few steps ago. So watch if you're not sure where the alignment is. What's your guide? The guide is this little tiny dot. And more importantly, in here in the center. And we want big, beautiful denim blue dots with tool 1. Don't be shy. Use lots of paint. You can see I'm Keeping my focus here on this special taper we just did. Using lots of paint. And this will be our last really foundation dot. And then the rest is really working around what we've put in place, add in details, decorating, so to speak. I really appreciate all of you taking your time to join in tonight. And I see you there on the chat that some folks, work got in the way, life got in the way. They were trying hard to either arrive on time or had to leave early or whatever. Hopefully you'll be able to catch up later. And I do appreciate you making an effort to join us in the live experience. It means so much to everybody that you were here. It means so much to me that you made an effort to take part in the live experience, even if you weren't here for the whole time. We enjoy you being here for whatever amount of time you're able to do so. So I'm repeating the process here on the little version. And these are only big dots compared to all the rest that's happening here on this version. This denim blue that I've got really does kind of remind me of jeans. I'm assuming that's why it's called denim blue. All right. Now for the fun stuff. We're going to do lots and lots and lots of just decorating, lots of accent stuff. So we're going to use tool 7 quite a bit from here on out to the end of the process of the bottom layer. We need tool 7 and white paint. So what we're going to do first is create an outline of white dots all the way around these bigger ones. And what we're going to do, hi Heather, she just said she flew home from Calgary. I hope your flight was a good one. So first white dot aligned with the middle like that. So you can see, whoop, there it is lined up with the middle. And now what we want to do is go around the rest. So I have a couple of tips for you. I'm going to stir up my white paint actually. It's sitting near my computer and my computer fan is just kind of blowing on the paint. Never good for the paint. I'm stirring mine up. Okay, so what you're going to do is re-dip into your white paint until you get 3 or 4 dots, however far for you. It's near the middle point or the equator of that. And then you can let the dots taper, walk them, whatever you want to call it. So I'll repeat this here on this side. On mine, I'm making 3 redips back into the white paint. And that just allows me enough white paint to get around that big dot. So I'm going to repeat that. First dot lines up with the center. You need that dot. Sorry, there we go. You need that dot first. Always start by lining up with the center. Then you're going to redip a few times to get near the equator of your big dot, which will mean you're far enough to taper your dot off or your paint off so that you don't run out of paint before you end up. You're just going as far as you can until you basically get near that special center dot of that taper from before. So we're going to keep doing that process until we've done all 8 areas, all 8 dots. And this is a good time for us to talk about the theme. These last global dotting times, I went through a series of them early on where we did have a few themes. There was one where we did Remembrance Day. But the ones that we've had in the last 2 months have had a theme, and we've got people to think about the theme and comment on it. So this one, the theme is peace. And that's a really big topic, and we're just doing the action of peace even by being here and doing this together. So we kind of already have it covered tonight, really, or this afternoon or this morning, wherever you are. We really are. This is action orientated. It's related to what we're doing. We're multiple people from multiple walks of life, multiple backgrounds, countries, different viewpoints on different things, and that's not even at the top of our discussion. We're letting it all go to be here together, and it's so powerful. So we're doing the peace. This is very much the theme. However, it did come to me as well to a thought I had. I've been doing yoga quite a bit, and when I get to the Shavasana part of yoga, which is when you go through an hour and a half of all these poses and all this stuff physically, and then Shavasana is when you basically lay down and, for lack of a better word, veg out. You just lay there and you let everything settle, and whatever needs to come up and through your mind might settle out, or it might come to you with something you've been pondering. So that's what's been happening for me, is that these thoughts on our global dieting time and what the meaning of our topic is has come to me in my yoga class. My yoga teacher's going to love that. And it just, when I was at my doing the Shavasana, the last class, the thought came to me around peace and how it's really an internal thing. It was like this kind of aha, like if everybody just focused on allowing themselves to feel at peace with themselves, like what's happening internally, dealing with their own stuff, then externally what radiates beyond themselves, much like this mandala, like, we radiate into our families, we radiate our energy into our workplace, we radiate our energy into our communities, our countries, and our world. Like, it's like this extension, but at its core, like this center right here, it's really what is in there, in each of us. And if we each take care of that, if everybody did that, then we would have a peaceful world. That's what came to me in yoga class to pass on to all of you. So there it is for your own thoughts to ponder. I don't know if that resonates with each of you, if it feels like, might be some truth to that. I just think about these people in power that impact us, and if they are taking care of their internal selves and that peace is coming from inside of them, then my goodness, we wouldn't need to worry about living in a time when there isn't peace. I would hope. There might be a lot of pressure on them from external forces, I'm sure, but that would be a good start. And I just see our friend Jessica from Australia saying hi. Hi, Jessica. From Jessie D Designs. I've had the absolute pleasure of getting to know Jessica throughout these last few weeks, as she has become our first person to work with me to become a designer of our patterns. And you can find her patterns, the first 4, on our global patterns section. So she's been very, very kind in helping me figure out how can this work, to work with others, to be designers of the patterns. And so thanks to her, I'm figuring that out. I'm figuring out what's needed on my end, on their end. What do they need from me? What do they need from Otauna? And how can I help them and learn and grow with them? And Jessica has been so kind to be at the forefront of this exploration and to allow it to be an exploration. And I'm so grateful for her for allowing that to be and to do that role, because it's a unique role. Once I get it figured out with her help, I'll be able to expand and connect more designers from around the world. And that's the vision that's starting to happen. All right. So that I've done both of mine outlines, my white outlines or tapers, and hopefully doing my two has allowed you time to get caught up. So we're going to go on to the next step. We need tool 3, and I'm betting before I even look at it that we might need to take a look. Yeah, we may need to adjust this particular step. The color we're using is our foliage green, which is just our lighter of the two. So I'm taking my dry tool and I want you to do the same. And what we're going to do is just see if this is going to work. And I'll explain what I mean. So what we want is when we place this dot right here. So this is a dry tool, I'm testing it. I want this dot to almost touch the white dots I just created. So if it doesn't touch, use a bigger tool. No one's going to tell. If it's too big, if this tool's too big, use a smaller tool. If you go over here and you say, but Ginger, I need a different tool there than here, it's no big deal. Just do it. Nobody's going to tell on you. So you're going to use whatever tool is going to work for you here. So let me get doing them, and then it will hopefully really make sense. So here's my first dot. This did exactly what I wanted it to do. It aligned with the center, aligned with this blue, and it almost touches the white. That's what we want. Tool 3 is the guide. It will maybe be what you need. You may need to adjust. And you're absolutely at this step welcome to change the tool size if you need to. Because the goal isn't to use the same tool here. It's to fill in that space. All right? Aha. Now, tool 3 worked. I thought it was going to be for me a little on the small side, but it didn't. It was okay. So now let's see what happens when I do the smaller guy over here. Yep, it works. And Sue's joining us tonight. I could see, I think she's still there. You still out there, Sue? Sue from Nova Scotia here. Sue's been very, very much a key person behind the scenes, and she helped me figure out how we were going to make this second set of tools. She's been a very big help in a number of ways. That's one way. And she also helps me sometimes with checking that the steps in the designs are accurate, because there's a lot of dots. I sometimes make mistakes, forget a tool size, put the wrong tool size, forget a color in a pattern list. Oh, I try. All right, we are almost close to the end. Oh, good, Sue's there. I thought she still was there. We need, what do we need? Tool 5. Tool 5's had a lot of action tonight. It's got a lot of use. So we're going to use pale blue. And where are we putting that? I'm looking here. We want pale blue right here. So here's our white that we've outlined. Let's turn that. We're going to put our pale blue dot, take the time to align it right like that with the center. That pale blue dot has the power to fool people into thinking everything you've done is completely straight. Even if stuff went all the way out through here, take the time and let this one be lined up with the center. And it will be like an optical illusion where you start to pull the alignment back in. This is the farthest dot out in the design, by the way. So if you've made it out to here and you've still got space like I do here on the edges, you can see I've got a little extra up here. No, you can't because I don't have it in the picture. But this is the last, it's not the last dot out, but it's the furthest out. Everything else will be closer to the center. So this is tool 5 in pale blue, aligning it with the center. Same thing on my small one. Tool 5, lining with the center. And I see we have some of our friends joining us from we've got Jessie all the way over in Australia. It would be, I think, if I'm right, Jessie, she can confirm if she's still there. 10 o'clock, nearly 10 o'clock in the morning on July 11th. And then we have the wonderful folks kind of halfway between Canada and Australia. We have some folks who are up in the wee hours of their morning in the center kind of time zones. We've got, I believe, our friend in South Africa, and I think I saw Karen in the UK. So it's a little bit later for those awesome people who are joining us. Thank you for joining us, no matter where you are, but a special shout out to you folks who are burning the midnight oil to dot with us. We appreciate you. So now we get to do this fun thing. I like doing this step. So what we're going, oh no, disaster just happened over here, folks. Look what I just did. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it. I'll fix that up later. I just ran my finger in it. All right, I get excited about this step and I wasn't paying attention to where my hand was. Not good. All right, this is the step that I'm excited about because what I'm going to do is take pale blue and I'm going to dip in and get a lot of blue on that tool. Okay, so there's the tool, lots of blue on it. Actually, I think I can tell I'm going to need to redip maybe once or twice. And my blue's a little chunky tonight. It decided to come out of the bottle a little bit on the thick side. So I'm going to redip once or twice. I'm estimating here of how far I need to go. That's about where I started tapering before. And I'm going to start here. Now, this is what I call an interrupted taper. It's getting interrupted by this green. It's going to go like that. So picture a line like that, but you let your dots be interrupted right there. Now, I might not dip back in quite as many times because if I don't, I can make them look a little tinier here. You got to play around with it to see what works. By the time I do 2 or 3, I'll have it down to a science. There we go. I might just play around with the camera here, see if I darken that up. What happens? There, so you're going to do that. Now I got a lot of paint on that. This was getting to be an older container, so I'm fighting the old paint here with this light blue. And I looked around because I have lots of paint. And I tried to find an extra paint bottle of the same color that was newer. No luck. So I'm working with my old paint. We are just moments away, by the way, of drying our dots. So if you have not yet gone and fetched the hair dryer, you can do that. You get your dots on here before I do. This is tool 7. This is the only tool in this set. Someone was asking what size tool. Let's look at my paint here. This is the only tool that has a ball tip in it. Like I just did a surgery on my paint. I just removed something from it. No wonder I'm having troubles here. Oh, the poor old paint. It's almost made it. Then I got to do the little guy. But that probably, maybe, hopefully, won't give me as much trouble. Here. Now you'll see my little mishap over here when I bring the little guy back in. Oh, poor little guy. Look. So what am I to do? I'm just going to let this dry. Actually, that might be dry now. I'm going to repaint that green one. Let me just do that right now. Get the green covered again. This is why the black paint is on hand. So I'm going to perform a little surgery here. This is dry paint. And always a teachable moment. My teaching background just lets me love happy little accidents like this. Because it's in that moment that you get to teach people stuff, including myself. So I'm just going to, this is all dry paint under here. It dried while I was doing the big tapers there on the big guy. All right, so I'm going to let that black paint dry while I do the other section. I'm going to brighten that up for you so you can maybe see it. I'm going to get down in there. You can see I still have a couple little things to go in here. I will probably, this is still wet here. So I'm just going to leave that for now, and I'll probably touch it up and do some other miracle work with it in a little bit. But for right now, it's just going to be ignored. And I'm going to move along over here and do my thing like that. And so this is still tool 7. I have with the littler set of tools, the set of 8, you know, it has other stylus tools in it. Sometimes I do switch and use the finer tool, but because this is going a fair distance, I'm going to stick to the instructions that say use tool 7. But sometimes I do switch it in other cases. Just if I want a finer set of dots and I don't think it will impact the spacing, I go for it. All right, I'm approaching my wet black paint. It's over here. So I think I can do one side. I can do this side here because there's no wet paint there. But this, oh, and I can do this one here. This side here didn't have the instance occur. The wet paint's all in here. So I'm going to let this space and area dry and not do anything for now. I'll come in later and fix it up. We need tool 6. We just have this last step to go on our bottom layer. So tool 6, we want the lighter green, foliage green. And all we're going to do to finish off our bottom layer with tool 6 is that. That's it for our bottom layer. So get those hair dryers handy, everybody. You're going to need them. In about 60 seconds, give or take a few. I'm going to bring that camera up a little bit. yeah, I'm really excited to see this one come together just because it's been so long. Actually, I'm always excited to do global dotting time. It's probably one of my favorite things to do, but I was particularly excited today. It's been a little bit since I had a chance to sit down and do any dotting. So people are surprised to find, they think, you know, what I do in running Otauna, it probably looks like I spend a lot of time dotting. Most of my time is spent more administrative type stuff. Sitting at a computer, thinking about things, working on things, connecting with people, communicating with people. So the dotting is a very small chunk of my time. All right, I'm going to bring the camera back up and turn it so I'm not upside down. There. All right, so this is what we have so far. We have layer 1, and this is our original. This is what we're going for. This is where we're at. I'm going to be super careful I do not interfere these with each other. So I'm going to get the hairdryer here in my space and dry the paint that is still wet. I want you to do the same. I'm also going to be drawing on my little one, this space in here where it needs its fix up. And of course, all the other spots as well. So let me get my hairdryer going. And I always try to do this so it's not near the paint, because the paint, especially my pale blue tonight, the pale blue is like, whew, it is hurting. I've got to get more of it because that bottle is really, really got some situation going on that's hard to work with. So I don't want to dry it with my hairdryer. All right, here I go. I think success. And when I say I think, I always have to look back at my largest dots, the ones on the bigger version. Sometimes they deceive me and they look dry enough. And then I discover as I get going that they are not. But they're looking pretty good. So first thing I'm going to do actually before we do any second layer dots, I'm going to take a minute and get this stuff filled in. So I'm going to put the camera back down. You can continue hair drying if you need to. While I do this little fix, turn my camera. So what did I need here? I'm just going to do that one there so it's got a kind of a nicer shape to it. So I redid that dot. And pale blue. So in here, what I think I need to do is actually erase this stuff. I should have done that before, but it will dry this black. I'll just leave that to dry. And then we'll go back and fix that guy after. So I love being able to show a little repair. Now, because I forced the paint dry, if you haven't done this before, you'll notice that likely your paint, it looks like it's cracking, and the paint will crack. So you got lots of of extra paint kind of here in the center, and that's normal. When you put down the dot, it adds this extra bit here in the center. It turns out really feeling three-dimensional when you touch it. When it's dry, it will have a bump here, and that extra paint, when it's forced to dry, it cracks. But you don't have to worry about that being visible because we're going to paint right over it. That's what we're going to do. If you're new, leave out this center. We're going to start there for everybody who is not new, who's experienced. We're going to paint a dot right in here first. If you're new, leave it until a little later. This dot is really super visible. And if it's a little to the left or a little to the right, because you missed the mark, so to speak, it shows up. The other ones are more forgiving. So do the other ones first and you get the hang of it, then come back and do this dot. So we're going to do it for everybody who is familiar. We need tool 4. And there it is, tool 4. And we want denim blue. That's the kind of grayish dark blue, close to the navy color. Navy's going to get some action. I know you're thinking, well, we got navy poured ginger. We haven't used it yet. It'll have its time to shine. Not yet, but one more step. So here's our denim blue. I'm going to be putting it on the tool 4 right in the center. You see it shows up. You can tell if it's dead center or not. Very unforgiving when you paint it on a white dot like that. We're going to do it here with this one. All right, now we want tool 7, and this is where the navy finally comes into play. Come in here a little bit. So here we have our first set of 8 dots. You're going to put a little tiny bit of the navy right there on the center of each one. New folks, what you're aiming here for, you always want to see a portion of the bottom dot. You don't want to completely cover it up. And if you ever do, you got to do something and adjust to make that not happen. You may find you just need a little less paint on a tool, especially this type of tool with the ball tip. You may find that the instructions that were telling you to use one tool need to be adjusted. You need to use a smaller tool, perhaps. Because it's kind of like a recipe, you know, you just maybe use a little less salt in a recipe because that works for you. So don't be afraid to adjust the directions. They're a guide and they're not the law. They're not the dotting law. Tool 6, and you can see this boogie's right along. So we're going to be using tool 6 over top of where tool 5 was. This right here. And I want us to use tool 6 if at all possible, because we've got another little bit of paint to go on top of this. So it's pretty, what's the way I want to describe this? Let me show you first. That will help. I'm going to put this lighter green on top. I'm being very, very, very gentle. I'm not pushing at all. If I was to push, I'm going to sacrifice a dot here for everybody. If I was to push, I can essentially cover up that bottom color. My phone's going crazy behind me. You can probably all hear it. We don't want to cover it up. We want a ratio that's a little more balanced where we can see this bottom color. Okay, so go for it. If we weren't having a third layer of color right here, I'd let you change to tool 7 instead of tool 6 in your hand. But I'm not letting you do that this time because we want to save tool 7 for the third and final layer. So just a little bit of paint on tool 6, very controlled hand pressure. Like my tool is literally still millimeters away from touching the surface. Just like dolloping the paint on there in a very gentle way. And dollop probably sounds way more heavy-handed than what I intended. Now here, I can probably control this by dipping only a teeny bit of paint. There's just a hair of paint on there. And that is how I'm controlling that on the smaller one. And you'll see sometimes I can even squeak out a second dot without reapplying the paint. Depends on my pressure and amount of paint and all that. Now we need tool 3. I almost put my finger in that again. See, I look up at what's going on in the live feed and the chat, and I look up at the camera and I move my hand and don't look at my hand. That's not smart. I gotta not do that. All right, tool 3. So that's going here on these bigger dots. You may find you need to adjust here and use maybe tool 4, which is a little bit smaller tool. We're going to be using the pale blue, the lightest blue. And we want to create a dot like that, still letting us see the beautiful Mediterranean blue that's on the bottom. And this is where any cracks that your hair dryer put on and maybe made you panic about, we'll get covering them up. And tool 3 here. Now, I do find that because there's such a small difference in size between the tools in our set of 8, sometimes there's even more instances where you need to adjust. Like this, I'm actually using tool 4, which is a little bit tinier than tool 3, just a hair. Allows me to control it a little bit more. Now, what do we need next? Tool 6. We're going to put navy. So we get to use navy again. It doesn't get a whole lot of spots where it's used, but it's used here and one more time. So we're going to be putting this right here. Now, we do not need a third layer in this particular spot. So if you find this dot hard to control, you have my permission here to switch this tool to tool 7 if you want to have better control over doing it, because there's nothing happening on the top layer. So that will work out okay. You can switch it to tool 7 if you want. So this is navy going on here. And small version. I'm just looking here. That's pretty dry. So just give me a minute here. I'm going to get that all fixed up now. You'll see me do my fixing job. And it will hopefully look like that little boo-boo in that moment of time didn't even happen. Here it goes. Now, what was I doing? Navy, right here. Perfect. I'm even doing a good job of keeping my tools in each set separate from each other and not mixing them up. Tool 2. We're going into the big dot that we created. And this may be one that tool 2 is a little big. It isn't for me, but when I teach a group about 30 to 40%, this will be too big and you need the tool 3. So you can try it or just even take your tool with no paint on it and check it out. If it's looking like it's going to cover up what's already there, use the tool 3, the smaller size. So we want Mediterranean blue, that beautiful sea color, ocean color is going to go on this big dot. So it's going over top of the denim blue. It's kind of a vibrant color compared to the base layer. Beautiful. Oh, that looks very, very nice. I like that Mediterranean blue. I like it. I like it, like it, like it. This color combination, like I was saying, is not one I've used often, especially like this layering here, the Mediterranean blue and the denim blue. I don't know of any other spot I've ever used it. Have any of you ever used these colors together before? I'm wondering. Greens and blues I've used a lot. It's just these particular shades that they're not ones I use very often. Where are we at? Tool 5. So we've got these green dots here. Let's get those covered with their second layer. Tool 5, we're going to put the darker green, the shamrock green as it's called in the instructions, this darker green with tool 5 is going to go right there. And I'm wondering if you folks could tell me if this pace has been pretty good for you tonight so far. A little late me asking. It's like the waiter or the waitress coming over to your table after you've eaten pretty much everything except for the last bite. And they say, how is everything tasting so far? That's the equivalent of what I'm asking you right now. How's the pace for all of you this evening? Nobody said anything early on, so I didn't even think of it. But if you could let me know, it would be good, even if it's a little late for me to adjust now, but it will help me for future events if I know. So if you could tell me in the chat, has this been a good pace for you? Then that would be great. Oh, I see a dot I forgot out here on my little mistake area there. Aha, now it looks right. And let's see, I'm skipping around a little. No, I'm not going to skip around. We just want tool 7. That's all we need. Which dot will we use first? Let's do this one. We want denim blue. And so we're just going to put a big old dollop. I'm really scooping into my denim. I'm getting lots of paint on the tool. You can see there, lots of paint. So it covers up a big chunk or big section of the bottom layer. And I apologize if I asked a question and now my iPad is just churning away and it won't, it's not showing me the updated live feed. It's just buffering. So I'm turning off my iPad program for a minute just to see if I can get it back online and see what folks said in response to my question around the pace. Oh, good. Okay, I'm back online. I can see some responses there to my question around the pace. That's great. And final step, you need tool 7 still. Wipe it off though. Final step on layer 2. And then we're going to use the hair dryer and do a couple spots for layer 3, and that'll be it. So this is white and it's tool 7. Just a little bit of white just to brighten up the outer edge here. Let that that pop. And my little one's got all fixed in the meantime. It does have one wet little dot that I'm about to put the white on this step. So I'm probably going to have to leave that just for a minute while I dry it. And I can come back and put that white dot on there. There's the wet one. I'm going to let that get dried with the hair dryer. And up we go. Oh, that's camera. There we go. So update, here's the finished version. Here's where we're at. You can see we're getting close. This is the little version. We just have a few dots to do on our top third layer. So I'm getting the hair dryer going again. And we'll dry the dots and finish it up. All right, so I'm stopping there. They're basically dry. So this is going to be able to handle my very gentle dots of layer 3. So let's put the camera back down. As we finish this bottom, not the bottom layer, the top layer of dots, which will be really quick compared to our first 2 layers. I'm going to talk about and encourage you and welcome you, if you are open to it, to share a photo on social media of what you've created, and if you're open to it, also your wonderful face. So let's put this down and we'll talk about that, how you can do that, because that really brings home for everybody that we were united together. And just taking a moment too, as we wrap things and get close to the end, to remember and recognize that we are here in this space together with friends from around the world. And thank you for being part of that and doing that with us. Going to be lots of tool 7 to finish this. Turn my camera so it's always happen to flip it around. So we want navy. Let's go right down in there like that. And maybe even brighten it up. I'm going the wrong way with the camera. The camera does a good job of adjusting up and down if I pay attention to it anyhow. So this is navy paint going right in the center. And I'll do that here on this one. A little one, yay. And where's that one? There's one of these little green dots right there. I've got to put this second layer there because that was still drying. Tools, oh, I said tool 7, and that was in the instructions it used tool 6 there. I'm not going to go back and change it, but if you happen to be following on with our written instructions from our website, that would have said tool 6 there. That's fine too. Tool 6 or 7 will absolutely be fine and fantastic. Okay. We're going to get our tool 7 nice and clean, and we're just using really, really little tiny amount of paint. We're going to be putting it here on our layers of green, just like that. I'm being really gentle. Let me get down in there. So 2 places to share your pictures now. I have been, since our last time doing a global dotting time, I've been doing my best to get myself in Instagram savvy. I still do a lot of the behind the scenes and definitely do the website's me and social media is me. So I had worked really focused a lot on Facebook because that was what I was familiar with as Otauna and Traveling Kindness Rocks, as it was originally called, grew. And so Facebook's, got quite a big amount of people involved in it compared to our Instagram account. And that's just a reflection of where where I've been spending my time and efforts. So I've been learning my Instagram stuff. I have been doing some live things. I've been posting things to Instagram TV. I've been learning about the story and highlights and hashtags. My goodness, I know a lot about Instagram now. So there's going to be 2 places where we'll kind of connect together, and either one is a good place. One will be our Facebook event page, and the other will be on Instagram. We'll keep using the hashtag just plain old Otauna. I think for right now, for the size of our Instagram, we don't really need to differentiate between initiatives and programs yet. So let's just use the same hashtag throughout all of our programs. Is going to be what I'm encouraging people to do. So you can just hashtag Otauna, and that will let us know that you've posted it there on Instagram. And then on the Facebook, there's an event specific to this. And up until now, that's where everybody after one of these events has gone on and posted a picture, which is so fantastic. I wouldn't say everybody, but anybody who feels comfortable and has time to do so is taking a picture and showing us, when they are able to and open to it, a picture of themselves, which is so fun because we get to see who the person and people were that we were dotting with. So those are the ways that you can connect. And if you're, hopefully that will work, that one of those formats will be working for you. You don't have to do both, and you don't have to do either one if you don't want. Just do the one just do what speaks to you and feels comfortable for you. And if you aren't sure about it all, just go on and look at it and see, and maybe the next time you'll feel comfortable to post something. So we are going to use tool 7 again. I got talking and I got sidetracked. We need Denim Blue, and we're going to put a nice dollop of that right here in the center of these big guys. And the little one. Yay. And we're going to just kind of skip here in order of, if you're following the instructions, just because we still have tool 7 in our hand. Take the navy paint, and you're going to put that right there. It almost looks black. I suppose if you use black, you probably wouldn't even know the difference, but this is navy paint that I am using here. We just have, I'm just double checking that I got all my steps because we've only got one more after this. I think that's it. One more to go. And the last step, you need tool 6. This is a little damp. This is where it's going. You can see I'm going to try this. And if I get things looking a little wonky, I'm going to have to stop and use the hair dryer. But I'm going to try it. We need pale blue, which is my old paint. Giving me some grief tonight, but I'm going to try it. This is tool 6. Let's see what happens. Ah, good. It's keeping a crisp circular shape. I was gentle enough and the paint is just dry enough. And the stars aligned for me to make that happen. So tool 6, pale blue. This is our final step. So after I do this step, I'll put the camera back up and show you what I've created and welcome you to, again, make a post if you so feel to, or at least direct you to how to see others who are posting. There's the little one, and now, or sorry, the big one, and now let me do the little guy. And I'm not going to use the hairdryer at this stage. I'm just going to let it air dry the rest of the way. There. Wow. They look awesome. Woohoo. All right, let me get this. Let's play around with my camera. Yay. Okay. So thank you so much for joining. I'm going to just hold up my big guy and painting your copy. Here's the original that was created 2017. Here is our new version, or my new copy. I think I can do this. I think I can hold up the little one. Woo! Here we go. There they are. So thank you so much for joining and connecting, uniting with our friends from all around the world, from multiple countries, to paint our copy, your copy and my copy, together, step by step, simultaneously for the piece design. 2 places where you can check out and share your photos, see other people, are the Facebook event page. And also you can go on to Instagram and hashtag Otauna, O-T-A-U-N-A. Otauna means, it's a made up word. O means oneness or everybody, and Tauna means a gift. So it's everybody uniting together to do something as a gift for the world. And it was such a gift for you and me, for me to get together and to be part of this with all of you. I really appreciate you joining in and taking part live. And hopefully we will be able to do that again, and that you'll be able to take part again. So stay tuned on Facebook, follow our newsletter, go to otauna.com and sign up for a newsletter. That's a great way to keep up to date with our initiatives and events like these. And also on Instagram, because now I'm working my way in the Instagram world. Thanks everybody so much, and have a fantastic evening, day, morning, wherever you happen to be. Bye-bye.